Welcome to Stardust Stereo. I'm Parker McPhinney. I'm your host. Today's the 6th of September, year 2025. Today I'm going to talk about tomorrow morning's total lunar eclipse, which is a full moon with sunglasses on. This will be a very important eclipse. This eclipse in the sign of Pisces at 15 degrees and 22 minutes arc is trine Jupiter. And so that makes it even more powerful. It's in a water sign. That's about emotions. That's about the oceans. It's about female issues. This particular eclipse will deal with scandals, public health, water issues, famine, spiritual life, the power of prayer. I've titled this episode Mystical Abundance because I think that that's the path you have to take in order to stay sane. I really don't know how people who have no spiritual life manage to get through life or even the day. I'd like to also suggest that this period of the eclipse is used in prayer, meditation, yoga, listening to music, all the things that bring you to your inner self, your higher self. Now, not everybody can do this, even though it's happening on a Sunday. Some people will need to work or have to work. You can still be praying inside. You can be praying for the world, for yourself, for your neighbor, for your enemy, whatever comes to mind. This total lunar eclipse will last, the totality of it will last 41 minutes. That indicates to me that the eclipse will have its strongest influence on us Earth beings for 3/4 of a year. So starting from now until 3/4 of a year. But I'm going to stretch that and say the influence of this eclipse could go up to 1.5 years, because that totality is just one chunk of the whole eclipse. The eclipse will not be visible in the Americas, and it will start at 8:28 a.m. to 11:55 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. If you live elsewhere, you will have to do the math because I simply cannot do that math today. It is about looking at the shadow. Your shadow, the collective shadow, what shadow means to you. I actually knew somebody named Shadow, and he did have a very interesting life. Okay, this eclipse is a new plan. You can make a new plan, but remember, eclipses, all of them, are full or new moons with sunglasses on, meaning you do not have all the facts, or there are things that will later occur that will condition decisions that you made or how those decisions unfold. The last time we had an eclipse in this particular degree was September 7th, 2006. That was a partial lunar eclipse, and that eclipse was conjunct Uranus. So each eclipse is different. Every single eclipse is different. However, sometimes they will have a thread because that same degree, 15 degrees Pisces, 22 minutes arc, will still fall in the same place in your birth chart now as it did in 2006. So if you can remember anything that was poignant that came to mind in your life-changing events in 2006, this eclipse might be an additional chapter to that. This eclipse is visible in Europe, Asia, Australia, Pacific Ocean, Indian Ocean. It's also sometimes called a bipolar eclipse, so if you're on medication, don't go off it. It wouldn't be a good time to go off medication, I'll put it that way. Those particular areas that it's visible in will see substantial changes in their countries. Or there will be shifts in the ocean. There will be discoveries at a later date in the ocean. One of the things we have to look at our oceans is to stop polluting them. We will see female energy, issues of children in the headlines, particularly filmmakers. It's possible that outstanding icons in the film world, dance, music, cross. Eclipses always rule the big stuff, not small stuff. Births, marriage, divorce, deaths, promotions, moving across country or to another country. They stir the pot. You may have been thinking about doing something, then the eclipse comes along, it instigates that actual choice. However, I would do a subclause here. Eclipse windows and periods are not the best time to sign on the dotted line. People will. People will get married. People will start new jobs. People will move across the country or to a new country. It just indicates you don't have all the information, so the learning process might have some bumps along the road, or shall I say will have some bumps along the road, but that's a given in life. It's just that eclipses really push you to act without all the information. Dams could fail or be built. It's all about water, and since the moon is in a trine to Jupiter, but its last aspect is to Saturn, it is about creating boundaries that will hold. This eclipse also deals with hospitals, ashrams, churches, the poor, miracles, rodent outbreaks. I just saw a thing in the New York Times about how a rodent ended up in a baby's stroller. I was like, oh my God. This eclipse will in some way involve the new pope. There could be changes in the church. Some of those changes might be opposed. It deals with your lymphatic system, deals with mold, mudslides. It's a slipping eclipse, so be careful about your footing. On the positive side, it's about transcendence, awareness of miracles, phenomenal faith, the aha moment where you get the word oneness. It truly is a time in which what has been holding you back suddenly becomes revealed to you at a point, like how you hold yourself back. It's good to strengthen the immune system during this time. At 11:08 a.m. on Pacific time, the moon will be full. So if you're charging your crystals or making your wish list, do it before 11:08 a.m. If your birthday is between the 6th of September to 8th of September, this eclipse is super important for you. There will be substantial changes in your life and your direction. This eclipse rules the feet. How do you walk the talk? It rules oil, perfumes. We might see oil spills. We probably are going to see oil spills. I would wish to think that we would see some apparatus in effect that could prevent or lessen oil spills. It's the big pharma lunar eclipse. Some of the scandals might be revealed about big pharma. You know, I had to recently take a workshop. I didn't have to, but I did, on Medicare. Oh, wasn't that insightful? I came away with one option: die early. Little dark humor there. But you know, you pick from A or B or this and that. And you know, it became perfectly clear to me this entire system of healthcare in America is all about business. It's not about healthcare. It so upset me. After going through this workshop, I thought, how does anybody feel like they're ever winning with this? They're not. Plan C, die early, or just never get sick. At least never get sick in America. Why this country does not have universal health care, I understand. Because the insurance companies don't want it. And neither does Big Pharma. So when you read about people's anger toward Big Pharma and insurance company in America, this is the root of it. However, we will take that energy and we will elevate it to know that the biggest Big Pharma and the best doctor is divine. So you surrender to divine, because divine can do miracles. Divine knows how to work the system. And by that I mean having the most advantage to your being that you need to be able to exist on planet Earth. Soccer is going to be in the headlines. I don't even know if they're playing now because I'm not a sports person, but Pisces rules the feet. And I am going to stretch a little and say female soccer teams might be in the news more than less. All the sports that deal with the movement of the feet, including tap dancing, is going to be highlighted in the next year and a half. Islands will be at risk of big water because a total lunar eclipse in Pisces opposite the sun in Virgo doesn't say any clearer, or shall I rephrase that, says very clear, big water's coming. If you're on a tiny island, start building a structure that's very tall. Because then, if the tsunami doesn't come, you've got a great view of the ocean. Trying to keep it positive. In the Sabian symbols, this particular degree deals with risky determination. On the higher plane, this deals with being open about your agenda. On the lower plane, it deals with operating in secrecy. On a higher plane, it deals with the internal awareness of the vastness within yourself. It's a passion for thought and philosophy and penetrating mystical abstractions. It's knowing the way back to your center. And that center will take you as high up as grace allows. It represents spiritual gifts. And so you should share those gifts. Not everybody will be willing to hear the insights you have. But those that do will use the information in a way that helps them proceed deeper on their given path. Now, eclipses also affect countries. This eclipse is going to be extremely important for North Korea. It falls in their 4th house opposite the 10th house. Changes at the top in North Korea is what I see. For Israel, it falls in the 5th house of children. So Israel is still going to be dealing with the communication that the world is sharing about the atrocities that are happening in Gaza. I don't see those atrocities ending. This eclipse, the moon will fall on Netanyahu's north node. So that does indicate some change in direction or a wavering. But I think it will be minimal. I could be wrong. But it definitely shows a change in his profession, mission, direction, or since the North Node is involved, it could mean that he is emotionally committed to the direction that he's already in. I don't see it changing. I just don't. It won't change until people go into Gaza, until journalists are allowed to be in Gaza to see what's going on the ground. Canada, 6th house eclipse, squares their Venus, tariffs, and then the answer to all of that in that country will be taxes. They'll just raise the taxes. China falls in the 1st house, opposite Saturn in the 7th. A loss is coming in their partnership. So that little gathering of the 3 countries, Russia, China, and India, that's temporary. There's going to be changes to that little propaganda show. Egypt, it falls in the 10th house, conjunct Uranus, wide. They will turn around on some stance that they currently have. Their president specifically will give some shocking news that's a turnaround. Iran, secrets and possible secret executions that are going on that come out. I know, I'm trying to keep it positive, but I can't make things up. For Palestine, it falls in their 6th house, conjunct their north node. World will very soon see what is going on there, because it will also trine Palestine's Mercury and Pluto. So somehow I think the world already sees, but perhaps some kind of pressure can change. I don't know. I really don't. I wish the astrology showed a magic light coming and everybody becoming aware to see the horrors of war and the wars ending and everybody getting along and not wishing to harm other people, no matter what country, race, or gender they are. But that's not realistic. And I am a realistic, practical astrologer. In Russia, young people will be rising up. It's going to be a hard time for Putin. England is having to deal with the issues of who's free to communicate and who's not. The Vatican is going to have some harsh words coming out, and not everybody's going to like them. USA, the most violent country, deals with issues in the workplace. So this particular eclipse is square our Mars-Uranus midpoint. Exactly falls in the 6th house of jobs, health. So there is a lot of sudden anger that comes out, which we know this. This has been happening. Unfortunately, this eclipse is going to continue that, and it's going to deal with healthcare, unemployment, lack of jobs, the struggle, the frustration that comes when people don't have hope. So the best thing you can do is instill in others the importance of daily activity that brings you peace, calms you down, listen to music, think about the good things, think about this is a period when you are in a canoe and your paddle has fallen in the water and you don't know how you are going to get out of where you are. But having the faith, because you see that island that's not that far away, and the tide could change and push your canoe toward that island. So it's a little bit about mystical thinking in an imaginative way, because divine is not limited in the solutions. So we have to tap into divine. Oh yes, looking at my notes, Australia is going to have some changes dealing with immigration laws and local power. And it's dealing with transportation and goods and banking. So this eclipse falls in Australia's 12th house. That's behind the scenes deal making. For India, this particular eclipse falls in their 10th house. It will trine their birth Jupiter. It will also square Juno in their chart, and that is another indicator that the little trio that met to make a deal will have a breakup. Women are going to make advances in the political scene in India this year. Okay, here's some tidbits. In some countries, when eclipses happen, they go out and they hit pots and pans to scare away the gods. I recommend taking a bath. Take a morning bath if you live in the Pacific time zone. Or if you live in the Eastern time zone, take a bath at 11 o'clock. Take a bath before and after the eclipse, if it allows. This, for a lot of people, will not be allowed. It is Sunday in the United States, so a lot of people possibly take a bath before they go to worship, take a bath when they come home from worship. I would also recommend fasting. It's only a few hours. You can do without food for a few hours. Making a list of what you wish to get rid of. Habits in yourself. Drink magnetized water. If you're not able to fast, eat raw food. Make a gratitude list of all the fabulous things that you should be grateful for or are grateful for. Spend as much of the time between 8:28 a.m. and 1:55 p.m. in silence as you can. Pisces energy is about compassion, about the unseen, about imagination. It's very intuitive. This is a period when you can get in touch with all of that. I hope you have a magical, mystical lunar eclipse day, and that the insight takes you to a new step upon your ladder of transcendence. I'm Parker McPhinney. This is Stardust Stereo. I'd like to thank you for listening. I'd like to thank my patrons. You know who you are. And I want to remind you, you are made of stardust. So go shine.